everyone, welcome to your second lesson on the motor effect. We should have zoomed already so that I could remind you about gun, pow and how to arrange your hand. So I'm hoping you remember that. What with the fact I've probably just spoken to you about it. So today I'm going to talk about how actual motors work. So at the end of last lesson, I talked you through this diagram. And I said, right, there's a cell and it's connected to a piece of wire, which is that black line running around. And it's been placed, so there's current running through that wire. That wire has been placed in a magnetic field created by these two magnets. So that wire will feel a force because you have a current carrying wire in a magnetic field, just like a normal wire. But because you have two sides of that coil, and in each side the current is running in a different direction, the two sides of the coil will feel two different forces. One, as you can see on the diagram, will go up and the other will go down. Now, because of that, what effectively happens is that that coil, that kind of circle of wire, ends up flipping over. And so we can use that to create motors. So anything that you have that has a motor, like your car or an electric scooter, for example, will use this type of technology. They will have a current carrying wire in, or a coil of wire, should I say, in a magnetic field, and that will cause it to flip over. So this is a very simplistic diagram. Actual motors don't look like this, they do look a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to show you the slightly more complicated version. Hang on, just move that around. Come on. Right, okay, so here we go. This is a slightly more complicated version. You have the magnets, if you can see at the back there, you've got N and S showing north and south poles. And I've drawn in the magnetic field lines. Remember, magnetic field lines always point from north to south. Then we've got this circuit which is in the middle. You can see the cells at the bottom there. Current will run through out of the positive side of the cell to this thing which is called a split ring commutator. I know that sounds pretty horrible, but it's not. I'll explain a little bit more about the split ring commutator in a moment, but what you need to know is really it's just a connection between that circuit and the coil which is in the magnetic field. So current comes out of the cell into the split ring commutator, into the coil, round the coil, back into the split ring and back to the negative side of the cell. So let's just show that, shall we? Here comes electrical current going from positive to negative, round, back to the cell. Now, if we use Fleming's left-hand rule, we can work out, I'm just going to do it quickly, so first finger feels, right, the left-hand side between A and B, feel free to do this with your finger, the wire will feel a force pointing upwards. On the right-hand side between C and D, because the current is flowing in the opposite direction, that piece of wire will feel a force downwards. Okay, so one goes up, one goes down. That means that the rotor, the coil, turns and it'll be turning clockwise. Now, if I wanted to turn anti-clockwise, I could swap over the magnets, for example, and that would mean it would flip the other direction. Or I could change over the battery so that the positive and negative swapped, and that would again make it change direction. But this is how a basic motor works. You've got your current flowing in, you've got your magnet providing the magnetic field, and it turns because of Fleming's left-hand rule. Now let's have a little time on the split ring commutator. It sounds horrible because of that name, but its purpose really is to make sure that current can always flow to the coil without it really getting tangled. It's made out of something called graphite, which you may have come across in chemistry, but it's a very good conductor. But it's also very good because it doesn't create much friction, so you're not going to lose much energy as heat. So there you go, how motors work. A current is sent through a coil of wire that is placed in a magnetic field. The current flows in opposite directions on the opposite sides of the coil. This causes the coil of wire to have opposite forces on it. It therefore rotates. A split ring commutator is used to connect the coil to the power supply circuit. It is made of graphite because graphite is an excellent conductor and creates minimum friction and wasted energy. Exactly like I said. Like I wrote this PowerPoint. I did write this PowerPoint. So please make sure you get that down. I have attached to the lesson a picture of the motor, a diagram, which you could either copy or print off, whatever's easiest for you. I know it's a bit of a pain. let's say I want my motor to spin faster. I'm in a car and I want to speed up. To do that, I need to increase the force, and I can do that by increasing the current, the strength of the magnetic field, or the number of turns in the coil. So this coil, if I go backwards, how do I go back? This coil only has one loop on it, but if I add 2 or 3 or 4 or 1,000, it will go much faster. If I want to go backwards and reverse which way the motor is turning, I need to change the direction of the force. And I can do that by either reversing the direction of the current or reversing the magnetic field. And that's it. Ooh, oh no, how do I get out of this? I never know. There we go, lovely. Right, thanks everyone, hope that made sense.